Welcome to this episode of our program Arab Affairs, dedicated to the 36th African Union Summit that is taking place in Ethiopia, in the Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa. The two-day African Union Summit is aiming at boosting or kickstarting the trade deal agreement, which was launched in 2022, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which is built as the biggest in the whole world in terms of population, gathering 54 out of 55 African countries, with Eritrea as an observer. Today, the Comoros president, Azali Osmani, took over the one-year rotatory African Union chairmanship from Senegal's Macky Sall. In addressing the African Union today, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for Africa to take action for peace. Guterres told the gathering that he is deeply concerned about the recent rise in violence by the armed groups in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo and the rise of terrorist groups in Sahel and elsewhere. He also warned that the mechanisms for peace are faltering, but urged the bloc to continue the battle of peace. In his address to the summit, the Secretary General of the Arab League, Ahmed Abul Ghait, also spoke about the importance of kickstarting the African Continental Free Trade Agreement and stressed that the Arabs are keen on bolstering cooperation on all levels with African countries in light of the mega projects that are taking place and within the framework of the joint Arab-African relations and cooperation. Also, Abul Ghait criticized the international community for not shouldering their responsibilities towards the Palestinian cause, saying that the international community is not responding towards the two-state solution with the Israeli aggression that to force the Palestinians to leave their homelands and the rising violence in the area. He also pointed out to the situation in Libya that represents a top priority for all partners in the Arab world and the African continent at large. He called on all Libyan parties to resort to peaceful political solutions in order to reach the stage of political stability that could preserve the country's security and stability and fulfill the aspiration of its people by ending the existence of the militias and foreign forces. He also, or the Secretary General of the Arab League, stressed that the Arab League will exert efforts to support the Comoros stability and to enhance the plans for political and economic development launched by the country's president, Azali Osmani. The Secretary General also affirmed a commitment to stand by Sudan to complete the transitional period and weighed the participation of the African Union in sponsoring the effective mediation process through tripartite working mechanism. We'll be speaking about that definitely on Wednesday. Egypt assumed the presidency of the NEPAD, or the new Partnership for African Development Agency for or up till the 2025, and the president through a video conference stated Egypt's 5 main axes in which Egypt will work on. We'll be speaking about that and more in our episode dedicated to this very particular topic. I guess to highlight the significance of this summit this year, we have with us over the phone His Excellency Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, the former Assistant Foreign Minister. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, Your Excellency, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you so much. And we've just seen the 36th African Union Annual Summit starting this morning, and followed up the statements of the African leaders, plus of course the UN Secretary General and the Arab League Secretary General. How significant is this year's summit that comes at the backdrop of many challenges that are facing the continent?
It is very important in this timing of our relations and developments in the world. We have many things to discuss and to exchange experience and opinion. We have, of course, as you will know, the international problem, especially the impact on our economies, all of us, because of the corona epidemic, because of the war in Ukraine, and many things should be discussed. On the region, Africa is not in good health. Many countries are fighting each other. The most important that in many countries, people of the same country are fighting each other. You have countries which was divided among tribes and parties because of that. Also, the bilateral relations is in a better situation. Now we are establishing a large African free trade area to get the good results of the COMESA and the other sub-regional free trade areas. And it will be the largest market ever in the whole world, 1,200 million inhabitants. But at the same time, it is the poorest continent in the world. So we want to attract more foreign direct investment. Africa, although it is the poorest continent in the whole world, it still transfer the flow of money from Africa to the developed countries is much more than it receives, because Africa is paying its debts, it's paying the invoice of its imports more than it exports or it receives of foreign direct investment. So since the presidency of Egypt in 2019, we are trying to make efforts in order to make Africa much more attractive to foreign direct investment, to trade more, to export more, in order to make the African citizen in a better situation. And this is a big challenge, because it doesn't depend on the donors only. It depends on our effort in order to make ourselves attractive to foreign direct investors. And we have to do a lot of things. Our infrastructure, it needs to be visited. Our banking system, it needs to be ameliorated. Our ports is not big enough to receive mammoth tankers or mammoth ships. The intra-relation among Africans, it should be much better, representing each country and the others. But the good thing that Egypt, as you will know, is the most accepted face in Africa, because we are old enough to have very continuous and old relations with all the countries of Africa. We are represented in almost every capital in Africa, and we are well received everywhere. So we are using this privilege in order to help our continent, in order also to help ourselves, because
yes,
since we attended the COMESA group, our trade with Africa is tripled. And this is very good. And also our balance of payment, our balance of trade with Africa is making a sort of surplus for Egypt's favor.
Your Excellency, here, if we speak about the 36th African Annual Summit, we have to speak about challenges, crises, that not only are continental, but rather there are the international ones and the continental ones. We're speaking about a pandemic that has hard hit the whole world and cut the supply chain, continued by a war that has hard hit the whole economies of the whole world and stopped supply chains at large. We're also speaking about rising violence in the continent that is really putting hurdles for, as you said, respectively, boosting the inter-African relations, particularly in countries like in Sahel, in Somalia, in the Democratic Congo, in Libya, and other conflicts within countries as Ethiopia itself. When we speak about, plus of course, the economic problems the African continent is really witnessing. If we speak about Africa, and Africa needs from the international community at this very particular time in light of all those crises?
We need two things. First, from our partners in the whole world to come to invest in our countries, to invest on dimensions where we need, like food industry, like forestry, like industry. We don't have industries enough in Africa. And our president mentioned this during his video conference a couple of days ago. Also, on the other side, we have to do our homework, because are we able to absorb plenty or a huge sum of investment coming to our countries? Here is a question mark, because we do not have enough infrastructure in our countries. Our roads must be ameliorated, our transport system, whether it is airway traffic or maritime traffic or air or road traffic, all of these are in need for a huge visit from us. Our banking system, we don't have first-class banks in Africa. Also, our ports are very small. It cannot receive big ships. Many things must be done. Also, something which I heard from main investors from Europe, they told us that in the whole developing countries, the bureaucracy is highly complicated, especially in the banking system. So all this homework must be done. And I think we are lucky as Egyptians, because when the epidemic of corona or the war in Ukraine started, we were already standing on strong foots, because we started our economic reform since November 2016. So although the whole world economy is diminishing, Egypt is still growing positively. But maybe it's good news, but not enough. We want to double our efforts. We want to double our rate of economy to grow, rate of our growth. So many things must be done on both sides, whether the receiver as African countries or the donor as whether it is America or Europe, China or Russia, or who is our main trade partner.
Your Excellency, Egypt, among other countries, has been calling for African solution in order to be able to contain the problems or the emerging problems in Africa, particularly the rise in violence, particularly some of the conflicts, the existence of outside mercenaries and foreign troops, the existence of some interference from the international community into the domestic affairs of the African continent. From your point of view, how far do we need a bigger role for the African Union, particularly in settling those conflicts and rising violence?
We are here addressing two goals. First is to attract foreign markets to come to us, whether to import from us or to accept investing in our countries. The other is the intra-African trade. And here is the problem, that 70% of what Africa is importing, nobody in Africa is producing. This same thing applies to the Arab world also. So as I said before, if you really want to trade with Africa, you have to invest in Africa in many very easy industries. And if the political decision is taken, I think everything will be much easier. So here is the importance of a conference like that, because it shows us what do we need, what are the challenges, and what are the opportunities. Much more dialogue among the Africans, and of course, if we need help from experts from anywhere in the world, we must use it.
Right. In 2019, Egypt assumed the presidency of the African Union until 2022, when it kickstart the African Free Trade Agreement. Only after that, Egypt assumed the chairmanship of the Security Council in the African Union. And just last Wednesday, Egypt assumed the presidency of the new Partnership for African Development Agency, which is the NEPAD. In his statements while receiving the presidency of the NEPAD, the president spoke about 5 important axes of Egypt's strategy towards inter-African relations. You're reading to
all these are circles in a big chain of efforts, and I'm so satisfied and proud of what the Egyptian diplomacy is doing. Thanks to our president, who gives his hand to all our efforts towards the whole world, and especially in Africa. And we have to continue those meetings. It's very good because it makes government officials meet each other, and they discuss the matter seriously, in brief, and in a very short period. Also, I want to shed light on the part of the businessman community, because in those meetings there are the presence also of many businessmen from the whole African countries who are ready to start doing business and doing trade and investment. This is very important, and this opportunity, it gives us the chance to tell our friends in Africa about our experience and to exchange experience. Also, we are there to be a very good listener, to listen to what are the challenges and what are the opportunities. And continuing this, and with the support of our financial partners, it would work. So much more meetings, much more concentrating on one problem after the other. I think we shall make the ship go further quickly in the coming future, inshallah.
Yes, with God's will, it will. Egypt also is putting Africa as a first priority. Your Excellency, Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, Foreign Minister and Foreign Minister, thank you so much for being with us over the phone and for your input.